night long before the sea split. It's to teach you that miracles are happening, but because God is doing other things. So let's find out what other things God may or may not be doing.
It's also that God works with nature. And second of all, I heard the secular scientists say, so what was that, honey? So the wind blew the sea. But it's the timing. The timing
that
makes
what
it
makes
the
a miracle.
miracle.
In fact, that's where the miracle, the word miracle, if you look it up, it means a miracle because of the fact of timing. It's exactly what you say. A miracle is only a miracle because of timing. It's nothing other than that.
A natural thing,
a
natural time. This is true.
But I want to go on. I have a lot to do. All right. So the planets, the three planets we're going to be talking about mostly are our Earth, of course, and Venus and Mars, and we have to see how they play in this stuff. First of all, let me tell you that Mars, for the purposes of this year, is going to be called in Hebrew Maroz. It's not the only word for Mars, in case you look it up, and I don't care if there's other words for it or not, but that's the word we're going to use, and we're going to see it. It's actually in Devorah. What we just talked about before Devorah, the song of Devorah, the word Maroz is there, and we'll tell you why. Right now we're in chapter 14, which is the only thing I'm going to do at all in chapter 14, and it happens to be here with a 15 skip, and you see the code. The Parshat says, Vayomru el Moshe, Bali ein Kavarim Mitzrayim. Basically, the people were saying, are there no graves in Egypt that can take us out here to kill us in the desert? This is the Arab Rav, or whoever was going against Moshe at this point in time already, the Jews, and saying, what are you doing bringing us out here? They're complaining to Moshe. So the word Maroz is here, because God, of course, is going to do something about it. And Maroz is involved. There's a player of the planet of Maroz, Mars. We will see, but it's not the main planet that's involved in this part. We'll see it in another part in a minute. Now, it's coming up right now. Mars didn't send aid. Now, this is about the part we had it last year, but I want to tell more about it today. This is from Shoftim Perek Hey. This is the Song of Devorah again. Not the Song of the Sea. This is the Song of Devorah. And in the Song of Devorah, if you look at Parshat 23, you will actually see the word Maroz there. It says, Oru Maroz Amar Malach Hashem. Right? See Maroz, says the angel of Hashem. And what is it about this Maroz? What happened with them? They did not come to the aid of Devorah and who? Devorah and her captain, her general, Barak. Barak, like we have names of people here. Barak. It's the name of a general then, a great general, who Devorah used to dispel the groups of peoples that they were going against, namely Sisera. Sisera was in charge, the general of the bad guys at that time. Yes.
Is this Barak ben Avinoam?
Yes, Barak ben Avinoam, that's what he's called, correct.
Okay.
It's actually in the song, it says that is his name. I didn't remember that till you said it, but this is Barak ben Avinoam, correct. At any rate, Maroz is there. So the rabbis say, why is Maroz there? We're going to read a little more. We're going to read about the Bavitcher rabbi many years before he died, what he said about this pasuk. And there's more. Other Meforshim and lately or before talked about this Maroz there also. But besides the word Maroz, there is more besides that. And Maroz is also coded. And the code goes through that Zion of Maroz also. So that Zion of Maroz, which is already directly there, has the Maroz going through it. I didn't do the skip, but you can see what the skip is right away. It's an 8 skip. I mean, I can just look at it and see that without even counting. So an 8 skip from the Mem, Resh, Vav, and that Zion, Maroz goes through Maroz. All right? And beyond that, there's much more. What more is here? Well, remember we talked about the Song of the Sea. This song has to somehow fit with the Song of the Sea. That's why the rabbis picked it as to be the Haftarah for this week's Parsha. So what's the last verse, as far as we say, of the Song of the Sea? Hashem yimloch le'olam ve'ed. I know we said before, and Raphael commented on 19, verse 19 says more about the horse of Paro, and then it says about the riders getting thrown into the sea, and that the Jewish people walked on dry land. I repeat, which 19 is important for future reference. But still, 18 really ends kind of the theme of the song, and that's where the word Yimloch is. It's here also. So Yimloch, if you look at those two Yuds, they're on the same line, of the double underline. Pasuk number 23. And if you go back up the page and look for double underline, one is missing, because it's part of the word maroz also. So it's Yud Mem, the Mem of maroz, or the Mem of what is it? Halamo, Az halamo, whatever that means. And anyway, Yimloch. So that's Yud Mem Lamed. You see the two lames there, and the chafs. They're not final chafs, but it's the word Yimloch. Of course, it means rain. God will reign in the future forever. So Yimloch is there. One second. What?
No, Atalom means the idea up to this point or
fine.
whatever.
You can look it up. We can look up translation, which I have here also because I'll throw it in there. But anyway, so Yimloch is there. Not only that, we have more. We also have the name of another planet, and called by its actually titled. Now, it's not the only title that's used for this either, and that's the planet of Venus. Our other planet, remember we have a triple. We have Earth sitting in between Venus, the one closer to the Sun. It's the second planet from the Sun, Mercury being the first, closest. And Earth is the third planet from the Sun, what we call third planet from the Sun. There was a name of the program, that third planet from the Sun. And the fourth planet, of course, is Mars. And that triple is the important planets close to us that they worry about near planetary stuff. When asteroids come by, or let's say meteors, they wonder, are they near meaning near Earth things. That's within that realm of Venus, Mars, and Earth. So Venus is here too twice, but both are connected. So if you look at the Samach Vav Nun Vav, that's backwards Venus, and then there's another Samach after that, the same skip. The skip happens to be 7. Skip this time, 7, not 8, and it's 2 times Venus forwards and Venus backwards. That's what we have. Venus forwards from the Vav, Nun Vav Samach, and backwards from the Samach Vav Nun Vav. All right, so we got Venus forwards and Venus backwards at this point. All right, cool. So Venus is there. We're going to talk about why in a few minutes. Hold on. And we also have a player. What's the player from our week's Parsha? This Parsha doesn't talk. This is talking about Devorah and Barak fighting against Sisera. Yael is mentioned there too. How she put a tent peg in Sisera's head and she killed him. He came in to get a drink of water. He was thirsty, probably to do something with her also. And Yael said, "Don't just come in for water. Let me give you some milk." So she gives him some nice warm milk. He falls asleep, and she gives him an Excedrin headache number, whatever. This is Rabbi Sprecher, I'm quoting him. And he says that too. Excedrin headache number, whatever it was, because she put a tent peg in his head and pegged him into the ground, and of course he died. This is Sisera, the captain of the enemy at that time. So, interesting enough, in these Pesukim, it says Maroz, and in Pasuk number 20, it says Min Shemayim, from heavens, Nalchamo ha-Kohavim. Basically, from the heavens, the Kohavim, the stars, the planets, whatever, the stars were fighting. Stuff was fighting in the heavens. And Mars, by the way, Maroz, happens to be in Greek mythology, Roman mythology, it's the god of war, right? So the planets are fighting.
Venus is love.
Correct. Excellent. Excellent. And we're going to see that in a few minutes also. Let's read the Lubavitch Rebbe. Lubavitch Rebbe about life on Mars. Shortly after the first moon landing, the Rebbe, Rabbi Menachem Mem Schneerson, of blessed memory, pointed out, I forgot to get rid of the sticks there, it's a reference, that there is support in Torah for the notion that life exists on other planets. Furthermore, we can know something about that life through deduction from what the Torah tells us. Here is the argument. Rose, what time is it?
It's about 20 of 11.
Thank you. All right. In the book of Judges, Devorah, the prophetess, sings about the victory of Barak over Sisera. In her song, she says, "Cursed be Maroz, cursed be his inhabitants, says the angel of God." That's that whole puzzle. Where is Maroz, and who are its inhabitants? The Talmud gives 2 explanations. One of them being that Maroz is a star or planet. The heavenly bodies had also come to the help of the Israelites, as Deborah stated in just 1 verse earlier. From the heavens they fought, the stars from their orbits. This star, however, which was the dominant star of Sisera, apparently did not come to their aid. That's what I titled the page before. Mars didn't send aid. It was supposed to send aid, and it didn't send it. Maybe to Sisera, because that's the star of him, or maybe to us. The point is it didn't aid anybody. And so, General Barak penalized Meroz and its inhabitants. Are these inhabitants intelligent? Intelligence is defined by the Torah to mean the capacity to make decisions with free will. Free will is only possible where there is Torah, whereby the Creator offers his creatures more than one possibility and asks that they make the appropriate choice. Torah includes the laws of Noah, which are given to all human beings. In other words, just as we are created by the Creator's word, so we are provided free choice by his command to do or not to do. So, if there would be intelligent life elsewhere in the universe, those creatures would have to have Torah. Could they have a different Torah than us? That is not possible. Since Torah is truth, there cannot be two truths. Could there then have been the same Torah as us? This also seems impossible, since the Torah itself describes in detail how the Torah was revealed on this planet, Earth, and that account itself has a strong impact on how the Torah is to be fulfilled. It therefore appears that although it is quite possible that there is life on other planets, that life would not be intelligent in a way similar to human life and cultures. But should we be looking, I made that bold, should we, humans, be looking for life on other planets? Dr. Velvel Green was a microbiologist who was enlisted by NASA in their project to determine if there was life on Mars. This was many years ago. He asked the Lubavitcher Rebbe privately if this was something he should be doing. The Rebbe replied, Dr. Green, look for life on Mars, and if you don't find it there, look somewhere else in the universe for it. Because for you to sit here and say there is no life outside of the planet Earth is to put limitations on the Creator. That is not something any of his creatures can do. Somewhere else in the universe for it. Oh, that's
Ignore it. It's
I just repeated it. Right. Yeah. Nothing else. There's nothing else. There's not something any of his creatures should do. I just repeated the line.
That's very interesting.
All right. So that's what the Lubavitcher Rebbe said. And we have Meroz. So it's about maybe these creatures on the planet did not come to the aid of either Sisera or Barak or Devorah in this time period. Now that time period was way many hundred years past our time period of the Exodus. But we mentioned that Venus was there. We also now going to see Venus is in our Parsha actually a few times, but it's in the part of the Song of the Sea. And here it is, next page for you. So here's Venus with a double coat. We got it twice there. So it's Vav, Nun, Vav, Samek, going down the page, and back up the page with underline, Vav, Nun, Vav, Samek. Two codes right in the Song of the Sea. Now you may ask, so why is it there? Why would Venus be there? So on this, there's a famous Jewish man. He's now deceased. He passed away either in the late 60s or early 70s. I don't remember which. After writing his last book, which was actually published posthumously, meaning after his death, by his wife and a publisher. And that book is called Stargazers and Gravediggers. That's his last book, because he was a stargazer. He liked to look at planets and see what's going on. He was a physicist, and his name is Immanuel Velikovsky. And I quote him because years ago, I looked at his book, and at first I had looked at it and said, this is a bunch of crazy junk. But of course I wasn't so religious at that time. This is back in the 70s that I looked at the books. But then when I looked again in the 90s when I became more religious, I said, wait a minute, there is something to this stuff, and he's unbelievable what is coded that will back him up, at least in this part. So I want to read you just a little blurb about Worlds in Collision, which was an earlier book that he wrote, which is probably his most famous work. But he also wrote two other books, which were Earth in Upheaval, where he talks about earthquakes and other geological cataclysmic things on this earth. And he also wrote a book called Ages in Chaos, because he talks about it from a Jewish standpoint, more or less, where some of the ages of people, because of the kings listed in the Tanakh, people in other societies and other cultures, goofed up ages when they talk about historical events. They don't always have the event right, but they don't have the ages correct. when it occurred. So at any rate, the general thesis of worlds in collision is that the Earth underwent vast cataclysms in early historic times. The planet Venus, we just saw that there, right? Says Velikovsky, when he was alive, is only 3,500 years old. By the way, let's do a little math real quick. This year is what? 5777. So if it's 3,500 years old, let's take away 3,500 from 5777. Rose, more, please. Can I do that part? I didn't do that yet because I haven't got there yet.
What do you
Or
want?
you can write underneath. So now you can still film too. Film and that. You're a multitasker. All right. So 5777. Take away 3,500. Just get a ballpark. So what's that equal to?
22.
Right, 22 got our head. Yeah. 2277. Now, that would be 2277 from creation. When do we know the Exodus date? We know the exact Exodus date. The year was 2448. This is 2277, but he's only approximated the 3,500. If you just take a couple hundred years in there, give or take, you got the date of the Exodus. So he's saying cataclysms happen to make the Exodus happen. Now, of course, it's God. We're not talking about some experimenting scientist who happens to be a giant alien sitting up there. Maybe not giant, but an alien with real brains, Marshall would say, and looks and says, oh, I want to cause the sea to split and pretend it's God doing it. No, we're talking about God only can split the sea, but he does it sometimes, like you already said, through natural means. But they're not the normal natural means that you think is an everyday occurrence. It had to have something cosmic event. And the cosmic event was the creation of Venus. So let's read this. So here it is. 3,500 years old. It was expelled as a comet from Jupiter. You got that? We're going to read it again. It was expelled as a comet from Jupiter. Either a large asteroid hit Jupiter. Jupiter, by the way, is known as the garbage can of the universe. Now, why is Jupiter known as that? Because it cleans up for the Earth. How does it do that? Meteorites, or let's see, big meteors or asteroids, which are real big, almost small planets, they come sometimes and they pop into Jupiter. Jupiter is humongous. It's the largest planet in our solar system. So when you got a large piece of mass, something, coming by, if it gets in the gravitational field of Jupiter, Jupiter swallows it in, it causes a little junky stuff. Who cares? There's no people on Earth, on Jupiter, so nobody cares. It's a boom on Jupiter, nothing. But once something so big came in, it hit Jupiter, says theory, and something expelled off of Jupiter. A little chunk expelled. It could have been that planet, did also. But this thing chunked off of Jupiter. It created a great red spot as a sort of Caesarian star. That's like, what's that called?
Caesarian star.
Caesarian star. It's like a big red spot. If you look with a telescope, I think even with the naked eye, maybe with a telescope, you can see this, but certainly with a big telescope for sure, you can see a red spot on Jupiter. That red spot was supposedly caused when something big, massive, hit Jupiter, not as massive as Jupiter, and chunked off something that came off of it. It left a red spot on Jupiter, and then this thing, this comet that spun off of there with a tail, repeatedly passed close to Earth. Didn't hit it, passed close. Stopping its rotation, restarting it of Earth, changing its axial tilt, causing the plagues of Egypt, the parting of the Red Sea, this week's Parshat, and other disasters chronicled in the world's mythologies. The geologic effects on the Earth were, as one might imagine, immense. Tsunamis, great movements of the crust, earthquakes. Now listen to this one. It's coming up, next page. Vast outpourings of lava, organic chemicals drifted down from Venus. This thing later cooled down, this comet later slowed down and formed its place in the solar system after many, many centuries. But at that point, when the Exodus happened, the planet was there as a comet, planet-sized comet, coming close to Earth and caused all these things. Yes, God did it for a number of purposes. One, he wanted to bring the plagues in Egypt. Two, he wanted to split the sea. Three, listen to this one now, and I thought of it this morning when I looked it up. I read this afterwards. To supply the Israelites with chemicals drifted down from Venus, to supply the Israelites with manna, and fill the world's oil reserves. Little note here. Golda Meir, late Prime Minister of Israel, once remarked that it took Moses 40 years to lead the Hebrews through the desert to the only place in the Middle East that had no oil. There's jokes that have been made about it. Now, by the way, we have oil. I know, all the jokes. But the point is, inland, so far they haven't found it. Finally, Venus settled down into the most circular orbit of any of the planets. A few centuries later, Mars went on a similar rampage.
Smaller.
Oh, sorry, smaller rampage, thank you, passing close to the Earth and causing various disasters. Velikovsky developed these theories at length in Worlds in Collision, and then sequels, Earth in Upheaval and Ages of Chaos.
Wow.
Now, watch this next one. Now we're going to the next chapter after, one second, we'll get back to that. The next chapter after, because we're on video, the next chapter after, we on video? Yes. Which is called The Comet Which Became Venus, Caused the Mon. The Mon came, as we just read, but that's Velikovsky. And I found this before I looked up the Velikovsky, wondering if they said anything about that too.
Caused the Mon?
Yes, caused the Mon. Watch this. In the Mon, this is the whole chapter 16, actually, except for the first 3 verses, is called the Parshat of the Mon. You're supposed to read it this week. You're supposed to read it all the time. Because if you want Parnasa, look at the board. Parnasa by Bamatra is 395. Rose wrote that. Now please, Rose, write the next number in there. And what's Hashemayim equal to? 395. Not only does the Mon come from Shemayim, but it is Shemayim stuff, because that's Venus, dew droppings, coming down to the earth as man for the Israelites. So he fed us with man, all chesed stuff you mentioned before. Venus, this is Goyish now. Venus is called the goddess of love. Why do you think it is called the goddess of love? Because something about that planet did good for somebody. Well, of course, the Jewish people placed to get us out. And also, what? Splitting of the sea to get us totally away from them, completely. And the Mon to feed us for how many years? 40 years, the rest of it, 39, whatever, years in the desert. And it's all here. Watch this. The word for comet in Hebrew is Shabit. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right. Shabit. It's spelled with a bait, trust me. It's Shin Beit Yud Tet. And we've got it here twice. In the Parsha of the Mon, from chapter 16, verses 10 through, verse 23. It goes all the way to the end, 30-something, but in verses. But this is just 10 through 23. Shabit is here twice, fully spelled, both forward, no, one's backwards, sorry. First forward, the other one backward. But not only is Shabit here, watch the rest of it. The word, what? Venus is here. Because what is Venus? Venus is the planet that came from this comet. The comet. Shabit means comet. The comet that's here twice in the Mon part, because the droppings from this thing cause the food that the Israelites eat, except for on Shabbat. I was on Friday, that's a miracle too. I was on Friday, twice fell, and on Shabbat they weren't allowed to gather. I was nothing full on Shabbat, right? Anyway, let's read the rest of it. There's one more thing. There is. The word Ava, amongst many times that it's here, is right next to or in between the word for what? Shavit. Shin Beit Yud Tet on line number 13 and 14. And this Ava is right over there because it's Venus. Because of that planet. Also Venus, Vav Nun, Vav Samech is also there on those lines and a couple lines above, because Venus is the planet. The Mon came from, did you ever hear this before? Nobody's going to say this. Only Velikovsky and a crazy guy like me. But Velikovsky didn't have a computer. At the time there were no computers earlier. He did whole room full. And he also didn't have the idea of, we can look up Torah codes. So with Torah codes we can actually see the comet.
Okay.
The only where it is, this week's Parsha, is in the Manna. So that ends that part.